This is Chip Maxwell, and you're listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. In this episode, David and Chip reflect on the economic impact of the College World Series in Omaha, then break down the recent military escalation between Israel and Iran, including the U.S. intervention with a high-stakes precision airstrike. The conversation explores the surprising market response, potential supply chain impacts, and what these developments could mean for inflation, oil prices, and the economic outlook for American retirees. Hey, David, I don't want to this to get lost in the shuffle. We've got some serious news to get to today, but the Open Door Mission every summer does a radiothon, a local radiothon. We participate, and I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you. The $5,000 match that you put up, that Retire Smart put up, was matched. And so that raised $10,000 for the cause. And, you know, if listeners aren't familiar, they call it Camp Plus Care. There is a summer camp, but this is also a year-round program.
Yeah, they've really added on to this program.
Educational and recreational activities. Remember, these are children in crisis. These are children that are living at a homeless shelter, so their lives have been turned upside down. And this is an effort to give them some stability and normalcy and some healthy childhood experiences while they're going through the crisis period. Another successful match, David.
Well, you know, we're so blessed to be able to help so many of our charitable friends out there and great organizations right here in Omaha. What I love about Open Door Mission is how far they get that dollar to go. So we do usually two big campaigns.
Rate is very high for.
Well, I mean, they
Mission.
send a kid to the camp for a week for about $50.
Yeah.
So, you know, our $5,000 plus the $5,000 that came in match, that's $10,000. That's 200 kids.
Yeah.
You know, that can go and experience a week. I mean, I don't know if you remember any camps as a kid that you got to go to. These are great experiences, and they're lifelong memories, and you build friendships that can last. I mean, my wife still talks about summer camp she went to as a kid. So anyway, I'm just really glad that, you know, we're able to partner with a great organization and help some people that really deserve it.
Meanwhile, David, in the College World Series, of course, it's like $100 million worth of economic impact for Omaha, and I got a lesson on why. We got your formula. You said, well, let's get one of the Cinderellas, although Coastal Carolina coming in here 1-23 straight. I don't know if that's Cinderella, but they kept rolling and got to the final. And then a perennial favorite, LSU, came through and actually won it. David, my wife and I actually were in New Orleans for most of the week of the College World Series. We were coming home Thursday morning, June 19th, and the person at the United desk was chuckling, saying, well, it was kind of a slow week. And then last night, Wednesday night, LSU qualified for the final. Bam! All of our flights are full this morning going north, you know. And I ended up sitting next to a guy on the plane whose son is a pitcher for LSU. Now, he's a younger guy and a backup. I don't think he saw action in the College World Series, but still. Plane full of jubilant LSU fans heading to Omaha.
We were in Florida visiting Melissa's parents, and then we celebrated our 33rd wedding anniversary this past week, and we flew home Saturday morning, and same thing. Full of LSU. When we were routed from Florida through Houston, United. We were on the same airline, and the United flight from Houston to here was all purple. I mean, it was loaded up. So they show up, they spend some money, and it is really. I think it's about 115, 117 million is going to be the benefit this year. Yeah. Even without the third final game, you and I both always talk about. We love that.
I always root for whoever lost the first game in the final just so we can get a third game.
Absolutely.
But I won't begrudge
one more night. The restaurants get money, tax-based as well. I will tell you that the disappointment, though, was the umpire throwing out Coastal Carolina's coach early in the game. That was literally ridiculous. You know, this is the national championship game, the last game of the season. Give the guy a little grace. I think that was a little ridiculous what happened there. But again, he put a pretty good interview up afterwards. If you haven't seen it, it might be worth pulling up on YouTube or something. But anyway, another successful run here for College World Series. Really another great event for Omaha. So cheers to us. And we've got some great news about Omaha coming up later in the show.
Oh, well played. Yeah. GEAUX, go Tigers. I learned that one while I was down in Nolens. All right, 8th championship for LSU. Congratulations. Okay, David, the main event, the main entree. Oh, my goodness. What has happened the last couple of weeks in the Middle East, why don't you give us your recap? Eventually, I want you to land on what does this mean for Americans, especially retired Americans, possible supply chain disruptions, oil prices, market volatility. But first, give us a recap of what has happened the last 2 weeks, including the American intervention.
Well, obviously, so you had Israel and Iran lobbying missiles back and forth, right? And fear of escalation. Would the U.S. get in? Would they not get in? They kept the mission obviously very secret. We went over and used the big bunker buster bombs. We had 125 planes in a mission that no one, got injured, et cetera. So, and thank you to our brave men and women of the armed services and those pilots that were 32, 37 hours in the cockpit straight. Right. That's just amazing precision, et cetera. But so the ramifications to the market is you would think that type of thing would shatter the market and you'd see a 1,000-point down day the next day. That's not what happened. The market's actually rallied that Monday, and the idea is that strength through peace, kind of what they're peace promoting,
strength,
right? Yeah, and so they the markets kind of said, okay, and we saw oil originally spike up massively, a 10% move in one day, but oil has dropped massively since. I mean, I just filled up this morning at $2.79, so I can tell you oil is not riveting higher. So the ramifications are really simple. We saw then that Iran posted, hey, we're going to shut down, the parliament voted to shut down the Strait of Hormuz or whatever, and that's about 22% of oil flow goes through that strait. Well, guess where that oil goes? To China. So it would harm China, not the U.S. And so, therefore, they're like, well, maybe we shouldn't close that, right?
Well, plus, as you said about China, they need us as much or more as we need them. Iran needs that oil to flow for revenue. I mean, it's going to hurt itself more than it's going to hurt us.
Correct.
If it shuts the Strait of Hormuz.
There's intelligence reports that maybe the bombings weren't as effective, et cetera. We'll have to examine that later. But I don't think, I think the markets are telling you what you need to see is that the markets don't think it's really much of anything when it comes to the economics here in the U.S. Anyway, the markets continue to get pretty close to all-time highs. Now, that doesn't mean we're all clear. We'll show some charts later where we could have some downside here for sure. But I will tell you that what it means to me is inflation is not going to come via the oil, right? So that would be the scare for the economics for Jerome Powell, which, again, is out there trying to tell us that, we can't really cut rates yet. He's starting to look like a fool at this point. I've given Jerome Powell praise, but Trump is, of course, taking a different approach. And
hold your fire there for a moment because we are going to talk about that. I just want to squeeze this in before we leave this topic, though. Before we sat down to have this conversation, you shared with me a CNBC story. The headline is NATO allies agree to hire 5% defense spending target. David, I watched the press conference with the NATO secretary and Trump, and he was effusive in his praise of Trump. I mean, the narrative out there is the international community laughs at Trump. Trump's an embarrassment. How could America trot him out there as a leader? Praised it. You mentioned peace through strength. He said you took a strong and decisive action to create peace in the Middle East. And it's time for us in NATO to, I think they used to cover 2% of it. Now they're going to cover 5%.
Yes, which means we don't have to fund that. People need to understand how dramatic this is. We have been carrying the load for NATO since its inception. And if we're going to continue, he campaigned on it. We're going to make them pay their fair share, so to speak. They have to step up and contribute part of their GDP to the cause, right? And that's the big thing people need to understand is it is a global economy for sure. Now we talk about, protectionism now and, make America great, kind of his mantra here, but global trade's a reality. It's not going away, but it's the globalists that don't want this type of thing because they want to control you from afar. No, we need to protect our sovereignty. I think most people want their country to be proud. And again, we can talk about riots where people are proud of their home countries. Well, maybe they should go there. But anyway.
Well, speaking of proud of your home country, though, I want to point that out because I think Trump has surprised some people because he said, okay, good, this war's over. He said, we ended it and we'll name it the 12-Day War, and it's over because people are saying, are you trying to get us into World War III? And they think Make America Great Again means America's the boss of the world. We're going to dominate everybody. In one of his social media posts, he said, God bless America, God bless Israel, God bless Iran, God bless the world, and MIGA, M-I-G-A, make Iran great again. He wants Iran. He said, forget the nukes, forget hating Jews. Why don't you go back to your tradition? You're great business people. You're smart. There are 90 million of you. You got a bunch of oil. come on and join the family of happy and prosperous nations. Join the rest of us.
I think there's a lot of folks that are of a younger generation, those that are under, say, 45 years of age, don't remember Iran as we knew it growing up prior to the revolution that happened in the 1970s. And Iran, there's pictures everywhere. You can see it was a booming economy, very well-educated people there. They flourished. They were good business people. When we lived as kids after my parents got divorced in call it project housing, but one of our neighbors was an Iranian guy who was really sharp. I still remember that today. The Iranian people are wonderful people, but they are ruled currently by what I would call radicals, religious radicals, and there are others that are saying, hey, you should go overthrow your own government. But yeah, we don't want to do regime change from putting our boots on the ground. If they choose to do that themselves, that's great. But yeah, it's a global economy. And that is where the peace will come from, because you mentioned it, they need the oil sales, right? So that's the great news of tying economically. The wars are now fought financially, hence why tariffs can actually work, because we have to now fight on the financial side, not just conventional warfare. And the economics prove it. The world's awash in debt. Everyone has to pay their bills, and they're going to need cash flow coming to their countries. Well, we're going to get that via tariffs. Iran can get it by selling oil to the world. And cheap oil, more oil flowing, is good for all of us, right? That's good for the economy. It means lower consumer cost of goods, lower cost to ship things, so we all benefit.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. If you want to learn how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, visit retiresmartpodcast.com. And make sure to subscribe to keep up with new episodes every week. Open Door Mission is a nonprofit 501c3 organization and is not affiliated in any way, nor is it a client of Retire Smart. However, Retire Smart has made charitable donations to Open Door Mission.